So let's introduce evolution and talk about mass extinction. The syllabus objectives, there's actually two. I'm going to introduce the other one later. But the first one is to define the terms evolution, microevolution, and macroevolution. And of course, whenever the syllabus says specifically the action or the cognitive verb is to define, it means that you need to learn the definitions that are actually in the syllabus. So let's talk about them. Evolution is the change in composition of a population during successive generations, which may result in the development of new species. So it may result, it might be just change of a species, or it might result in a new species. But it's change over time, change in the composition of a population over successive generations. So microevolution, the definition is that it's small-scale variation of allele frequency within a species or population, and there's no new species developed, so there's no speciation. Small-scale change within a species. And really importantly here, it talks about a change in the allele frequency. This is something that we're going to be talking about a lot. As you know, the alleles or the genotype dictates the phenotype. And so they're actually talking about a change in the allele frequency. So if we have a look at this classic example here of the peppered moths, you see we've got the speckled moth and we've got the darker coloured moth. And you could see that the darker coloured moth up against this dark coloured tree is more camouflaged. So it has a survival advantage and therefore has a reproductive advantage. And essentially what evolution is through natural selection is that organisms that have traits that are better adapted to their environment have a reproductive advantage, a survival advantage. So they're going to survive longer, reproduce more, and produce more offspring. So they're going to pass on that favourable trait and the favourable allele to the next generation. Over time, those favourable alleles are going to increase in their frequency. Now, the types of factors that can influence this survival advantage are called selection pressures. And so this selection pressure here is the colour of the tree. And so when you have a selection pressure, some traits and those alleles are selected for, and others that are less favourable are selected against. So we're going to be talking more about selection pressures and those traits that are selected for and selected against. And we'll be talking about changes in allele frequency. So macroevolution is when we have change that is above the level of species. So in other words, speciation occurs. This is what the syllabus says the definition is. It's a variation in allele frequency at or above the level of species over geological time, so long periods of time, and results in the divergence of taxonomic groups in which the descendant is in a different taxonomic group to the ancestor. It's a bit of a mouthful there, but it basically means speciation. So we have such a change in the allele frequency that they are no longer the same species. And you can recall the species definition. There was a number of them, but the biological species definition said that organisms of the same species are capable of reproducing naturally and producing fertile offspring. So when you have a speciation event, it essentially means that they can no longer reproduce. And we'll be talking more about those mechanisms as well. So the second syllabus objective we're covering in this video is about determining episodes of evolutionary radiation and mass extinction from an evolutionary timescale of life on Earth, which is approximately 3.5 billion years. That's a long time. That's why we talk about it being geological time. So we're looking at evolutionary radiation and mass extinctions. So first of all, what are we talking about by evolutionary radiation? So it's an increase in taxonomic diversity or morphological disparity. So evolutionary radiation occurs over geological time, so long periods of time. Essentially, as the Earth changes, species need to be able to adapt and change, otherwise they perish and become extinct. So whenever there is change on Earth, though, it does open up new opportunities for new niches. So that change is often associated with this evolutionary radiation, where new species can develop to occupy these new niches. And we often find this occurring following periods of mass extinction. So let's have a look at extinction. So extinction is the complete disappearance of a species from Earth. Look, it's actually a normal part of evolution. It occurs when the environment changes and the phenotype of the species is no longer suited to that environment and is not able to adapt. So therefore, we have environmental conditions that change outside of the species tolerance range, or the environmental change might introduce a predator in which the species has no protection from. Now, extinction is a normal part of evolution. In fact, it's a balance between extinction and speciation. So extinction, of course, is the removal of species, but speciation is the addition of new species. So whenever there's extinction, it opens up new niches for new species to develop. So it's a balance between these in evolution. Look, there's a background extinction rate around about 10% of species are lost every million years. But we also have these mass extinctions, and there's been 5 mass extinction events. And a mass extinction occurs when there's extinction that occurs much faster than that background rate. Now, it might still be over millions of years, but it's a much higher rate. And there's been 5 mass extinction events so far. And every time we have a mass extinction, it's followed by a period of evolutionary radiation due to the opening up of new niches. So here's the 5 events, and they're over millions of years. The first event, it says that 86% of species were lost throughout the Earth. And this occurred due to rising sea levels and moving tectonic plates that caused significant change. The second mass extinction event occurred through the rapid proliferation of green plants through the Earth. So that had a negative impact on, or caused 75% of species to become extinct. The third and fourth mass extinction events were associated with volcanic activity on Earth, and the fifth was the collision of an asteroid on Earth, and that caused 76% of the species to become extinct. So the take-home message here really is that evolution is change over time. It's a change in allele frequency. Microevolution is change within a species. Macroevolution is beyond the species level, so it's speciation, creating new species. It's extinction and speciation tend to balance. Whenever there's extinctions, it opens up new niches for new species to appear, and this greatly happens after mass extinctions where we have these large evolutionary radiations.